Okay. Alright, I was reading something online a minute ago, and I don't really want to say what it was, but the terminology that the person. I was reading a forum, okay? And the terminology that the person was using was. He was a guy, he was using feminine terminology to describe something. And what I've observed, right, this is the truth here, right? This is the truth, okay? I'm a man, and I've observed during my life the dastardly menace of what is called feminism being applied to the world, okay, as an artificial thing. It's been applied, okay, with an intention. Now, the intention is not uh, immediately apparent. I mean, you can tell the intention from the results, but if you listen to the language that's used by the people who have been peddling this nonsense, you would believe that it's about liberating women from oppressive men, okay? And it isn't, okay? At the very root of it is a particular group of people on planet Earth who have a particular agenda, alright? And their agenda, broadly speaking, is to run the entire world, and they will do anything to achieve that. Now, the way that they operate is very difficult for most people to understand, because their focus, this particular group of people's focus, is completely different to the focus of every other person on the planet, okay? So their ethics are completely and utterly different, because they see themselves as different. They don't have any honor to anyone to anyone else who isn't part of their group, okay? They have honor to those in their own group, but they have none to those outside of it. Now, you might say, well, that's fair enough, and indeed, strictly speaking, you could say that's true. But the effect it has is that when people are faced with what these people are doing, it seems impossible. People are like, no, that doesn't even seem possible, because they wouldn't conceive of it, because they don't need to. This particular group of people need to. It's how they survive. It's how they have continued for a long time. And it seems at first really, really far-fetched. Now, this isn't something which is really of an ethereal nature. It's pretty basic and fundamental and simple. But bringing it back to feminism, okay, and the effect it's had, the reason that they instituted and created and developed this notion of feminism, okay, is so as to undermine the men of all of the countries of the world who, when these people went about their business of trying to undermine and exploit the countries that they were staying in, would turn on them. So every time these people would misbehave and get found out for what they were doing as a group, the men of each country in which this happened would react. So these guys developed feminism as a way of trying to empower the female in each of these countries over the male so that they'd feel safe. In the same way as, I don't know, let's say that there was a little boy who was being a menace to other people, would do his whatever nonsense he was doing and then hide behind the female teacher in the classroom, right? So these people are trying to hide behind women, okay? Because they know that the males of any society will destroy them or deal with them or whatever. Now, again, you could argue, well, that makes sense. Fine, whatever. But the point is, it harms our societies, our countries. It harms men and women. It harms family. It harms society. Just so that this particular group can behave the way they choose to, which is to separate themselves from the rest of humanity and try to orchestrate a situation where they control humanity. They can't do it through overt means because everyone would reject it, so they do it through covert means, through sneakiness. Alright? So we have systems, we have honor-based systems in our society which have grown naturally through the ages. Pretty much every society I can think of around the world has these kinds of systems, and they're even compatible with interactions with each other. So, for example, in warfare, it's not a perfect thing, but there are elements of honor between nations. Okay, so there are things that you don't do, like if someone approaches you under a banner of truce, you don't go shooting them, because you wouldn't expect them to do the same thing to you. You have to have that honor agreement whereby you can approach the enemy and speak with them and discuss terms, whatever the outcome. Okay? So these kinds of things exist, these ways of treating other people. But this particular group of people I'm talking about treat themselves as so differently from the rest of humanity that they do not consider any honorable behavior to apply to them. They don't behave the same way as everyone else. They have a specific set of rules that they obey, which apply only to their own people. Yet they proceed as they do around and among the people, the people in the rest of the world, whilst having their own game plan afoot. Now, you can't say who these people are, because if you do, you get a hell of a lot of problems, because they have orchestrated a situation where they are perceived as victims only, which is another tactic of theirs. If we are perceived as victims, then people will try to protect us, right? Which is use of one of the honourable elements of normal societies, protecting the weak. But if you're pretending to be weak when in fact the opposite is true, and that group or individual or whatever is a threat, then that's lying, right? Not that lying doesn't exist or that it's it's dishonourable behaviour, unless you are perhaps in a condition of war against others, and these people are in a condition of war against everyone else. And that's no one's fault but their own, right? They've made the choice. So they don't have honour, and this is exemplified by the behaviour of communists. Okay? The reason communism is so dangerous is because one of their tenets when they are conducting warfare is any means necessary. Alright? Any means necessary. So they will do the most horrendous, horrific things in the name of achieving their outcome, whereas ordinary warfare conducted between nations has usually got some element of honour within it, whereas there's none in communist warfare, which is usually guerrilla based. Now, and they will employ the most horrific means because they believe anything goes, because that indoctrination is produced by people who don't have any moral understanding or moral care for anyone except for their own group. So there's a lot more to this, but the point is, the bottom line is that feminism was created not to free women, it was created to undermine men. Okay? Not on behalf of women. They were held up as this, they were, the people who created this nonsense held up women and said, women, you are oppressed, we will, you need to, right? You need to be uplifted or whatever, right? But it wasn't about women. And women didn't institute it, they just went along with it. It was an insidious idea that was put in place for a specific outcome. And this is what's happened. Our society has become weak, our society has become vulnerable, and it's a mess. And the only environment in which this particular group of people can exist and actually work and what's the word? Exploit the countries that they live in is if that country is in a mess. And they've used feminism to achieve it. Because men will unilaterally say, no, this is garbage. And they'll fix the problem. But this idea, this agenda has been put into the media so heavily and gradually over the last 50 or 60 years that it's been so gradual that people, even a lot of men have gone along with it. So you'll find men using feminized language which is appropriate to women when they're talking with each other now. And that has to be stopped. It has to be moved away from, because there is a way of talking which is masculine and a way of talking which is feminine. Okay? The way blokes, men, dudes, guys talk to one another is totally different to the way that women will talk with one another, and it's totally different from the way men will talk to women and the way women will talk to men. Okay? At some level you might argue there's some crossover, but the fact is that we use different terminology for specific reasons. One example of this at the moment is women starting to use words to address men like mate and stuff like that, right? No. As a man, you earn the right to use the word mate and to be called the word mate. A woman does not use the word mate, all right? I don't care what you say, women do not use the word mate. They have been encouraged to, because all they see around them is this feminized, this nonsense, which isn't about feminism at all. It's not about femininity. It's about destroying womanhood and destroying manhood, so that everyone's a mess, so that this particular group of people can basically feed off of the nations that they're living in, while that nation is a complete catastrophe. And that's what we're seeing around us right now. Okay? And in small ways, like I'm highlighting now, you can see it in the way that men are starting to use language which is female. Men, you'll see nowadays, all the time walking around with babies strapped to them, okay? You might argue that carrying a child's not the worst thing in the world for a man, but it's at the moment becoming so normal and normalized that it's affecting the general understanding of masculinity and manhood. Alright? You have to understand this. I'll pick up a baby, I'll hold a child, no problem with it. But it's becoming so unilateral. You'll see women walking down the road with nothing in their hands at all, and the guy strapped up with a baby. Come on, alright? Wake up, people. Seriously, wake up. And look what's happening to your country, your society, and your world, and people in general. It's not progress. The only progress it is progress towards destruction. We have to stop this. We have to remember men are men and women are women, and we have to recover from this nonsense. Okay? This is not the end of this topic. This is just one video about it. But this has to be fixed. Alright? You start off with yourself. Look at yourself. Look at what it is that you represent and how you behave as a man or as a woman. And we can start fixing this nonsense, because I know there's a lot of women out there who see it too, and a hell of a lot of men who see it too. Alright.